Hey everybody, it's Joe from GBE Reviews. I'm going to be playing Paladins again, and in particular I'm going to be talking about the healer Moldamba. So I was going to do a review of him a week ago, but there were some pretty substantial changes this patch, so I figured I would wait, try him out a little bit, get used to his new loadout. So as far as the patch notes themselves, one thing I did notice is how much more difficult it got to hit with his spit attack. The hitbox used to be pretty big and it used to be quite easy to land those shots. Now it's a lot more difficult. So I find that before it was a lot easier to do a DPS Moldamba, really just absolutely tear enemies apart even from far away. Now, I think he's probably better to focus on the healing, especially because his gourd heals for quite a bit more. So I have 3 builds I use for him. The first is an all-around build, and I'll start with this one. This is basically what I use for most matches. So you'll see I have my gourd cooldown reduced by 1.5 seconds. I have Ritualistic Magic 3, which heals me for 45 per second while healing an ally. So this is for sustainability. I have reduced all active cooldowns by 20% when getting an elimination, 15% reload speed, and reduce the cooldown of Slither by half a second. And this one I'm not terribly fond of. It's not really noticeable. There's not really anything else though that I can do with that 1 point. I guess the damage reduction's okay as well. This build doesn't focus as much on Mending Spirit. It's a little bit of everything. So you're going to be throwing your gourd as often as possible. And for all of my loadouts, I always use Chrono for him. Chrono 1 followed by Chrono 2. So I am trying to get those cooldowns as low as possible. I want this gourd to be up almost constantly. And once you get to cooldown 2, it's pretty close. The Ritualistic Magic is helpful, especially if you're sticking to the point with a tank, or if you're following a DPS around. With Moldamba, you can kind of do a little bit of flanker stuff if you can get in the right place at the right time, but I tend to like to stick to somebody, so I like this to help keep both of us up a little more. The cooldown thing, I think, was more useful in the last patch. I used to get, dozens of eliminations. I would be tagging everybody pretty easily. Now it's quite a bit more difficult. But I think this is pretty good, especially because some of your cooldowns are pretty high. This reload speed is essential. If you don't get reload speed, his reload is so slow. Yeah, and this reload speed is definitely important. You want to get this pretty high up. In fact, depending on the match, if I find that I'm able to do a lot more damage than normal, I'm going against a team that's not so strong, I'll actually forego Chrono 2 and get another level of reload speed. Because you could just take a couple of shots and use a reload to stun. This is really good against a Ruckus who needs to build up. If you can hit him with that every 2 or 3 seconds, you're basically stopping him from getting that really powerful windup. Alright, so the next loadout I have is a healing loadout. This one is focusing on staying on the point and just keeping your team alive. I have my gourd reduction maxed. I reduce the cooldown and Mending Spirit by 1 second when you miss. And so this is kind of one of those things that you don't think you need until you play Moldamba for a while. Even if people are relatively close to you, I find that people don't like to sit idle, so they're jumping around, they're bouncing, they're weaving in and out of buildings. It's really tough to hit somebody with this, especially because you have to get pretty close to them. So I find that when you're doing a healing build and you want to focus more on healing, you definitely need this card. You want to reduce this by at least a second. So what I find is that if I miss somebody, my cooldown's like 2 seconds. If I hit them, it's 4. So it's definitely a lot more helpful. You want to have this Slither card as well. It's not a huge impact, but it does help a little bit escaping. You want to have your Mending Spirit up. And I also like this card too, the Possession. You gain 12% damage reduction while healing an ally with Mending Spirit. So this is good if you're going to stick to the point. You're just going to want to hit your tank with this Mending Spirit as much as possible. And that's going to give you a good overall damage reduction. I think the best part is this is just damage in general. So this is better than a Haven or a Blast Shield because it's for all damage. Alright, so finally I have a Wrecker loadout, and I haven't really used this one much this patch because it's more difficult, but this is what I would use when I focused on doing a lot of damage. So say you're an alt healer playing with a Yang or a Grover, and you don't really need to heal as much, you could still do a lot of damage with Moldamba. And his reload stun is definitely particularly useful. So for this I have the cooldown of the gourd by 1 second. And the gourd can actually be good offensively as well. There are times when I will throw it at the enemy as they're approaching, knock them off the horse, get a little damage reduction on them before they get in. The sustenance is kind of not really an important card, but I do find that if I'm low on health, Especially if you want to, say, go fight a flanker, you could throw the gourd down on yourself. They're taking damage, you're healing. If you get too low, you're healing for a little bit extra. Definitely helpful. I like the extra health because he, in general, has decent health, but you can buff him up even more and get him in a pretty good place. The reload speed is definitely critical if you want to go offensive. For this build, I will usually get reload speed first and then focus on chrono second. And then finally reduce all active cooldowns when you get an elimination. Anyways, I'm going to hop into a couple matches, show you a bit of my playstyle, give you some tips and tricks, and I'll see you on the other side. Alright, so this first clip is showing you how to use his ultimate. So you'll see there's a ton of guys on the point, so you run right in and throw it. This is going to get all of them feared and off the point and scattered, and that's going to allow your guys to start doing some damage. Unfortunately, their Grover threw his ultimate, so a lot of that was undone, but that's the kind of time you want to use it. And as you'll see, I'm running around here, I'm throwing my gourd, I'm attacking the enemies, I give Grover a stun and kill him. Then I kill Androx. You want to make sure you're extra mobile, so you're going to want to shoot your heals as often as you possibly can. Keep that gourd up. Throw your spit when you can as well, but you'll see I'm mostly focusing on keeping Androx alive. You know, I was able to get that Cassie from behind. And there are a couple other things I'm doing here, so I'm also trying to kill their healer. That's another good thing. And yeah, that's pretty much the gist of what you want to do here. You'll see that our team was completely behind. All of us were wiped. It was just Androx and I. But if you can be mobile and you can keep one of your teammates up and they're able to kill the enemies, you're in a pretty good spot. So yeah, that's the first clip, and let me show you one more. Alright, so this is my offensive loadout here. I've got my reload speed and chrono. I'm still healing. You'll see I do toss the Drogo a heal, and I'm throwing my gourd as much as I can. But I'm focusing more on damage, so I'm going to use my reload to stun and kill Grok. And then I'm going to make sure that I heal Fernando and throw my gourd, because you're still the healer as well. But I'm going to hit Androx before he can use his ultimate, use my reload on the dwarf to stun him and finish him off, and then boom, defense successful, easy peasy. So yeah, you can see that Moldamba can be pretty badass. He can really do a ton of damage. His stun can be really useful, especially if you have a Bomb King and in a group and you're working together. If you can stun somebody and get them to get stuck a couple of times, you can really do a lot of work. So yeah, that's pretty much a Moldamba summary. You know, he could be great at offense, he could be great at defense, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So hopefully you guys found this helpful. If so, click like and subscribe, and also check out my anime and visual novel reviews as well. It was a pleasure talking to you guys, and Jeanne.